Welcome to Zwift Live for the SRAM Send It Series. I'm your host, Matthew Keenan, and I'm joined by Pat Shaw. Pat, the wonderful thing about this series is, in addition to seeing some of the best go head-to-head, some of those that just race on the weekend or just have been really adapting to Zwift throughout the coronavirus period get their opportunity to see where they are, how they measure up against some of Australia's best and some of the world's best.
Well, certainly, and we've got some of the world's best on the start line. But much like Zwift's Tour for All, the SRAM Send It Series is also for all, focusing mainly on personal bests, maybe doing circuits at a quicker pace than you have in the past. But also, if you can complete the entire series just by starting and finishing, you go in the draw to win some amazing prizes thanks to SRAM and Zip.
Yeah, you can win the SRAM group set, a new set of Zwift wheels. There's 2 of those given away, and it's not whether you finish first or you finish last. You simply have to ride all 8 races. This is round 1 this week. It's every Tuesday night from now, or Tuesday, depending on where you are, whether it's night or day, because we've got riders from all over the globe. Italy, France, Belgium, they're represented. We've seen some from the United States as well. But this is every Tuesday from now until the 30th of June. 178 riders on the start line for the women. They're just a couple of moments away from getting started. Almost 600 for the men. They kick off at 7:10 local time here in Australia in around about 45 minutes time. Amongst the women though, Pat, that's the race that we'll be paying our attention to first. Who do you see as the big favourites to get across the finish line first?
Well, we both saw Emily Herfoss on the start line. Not really a course that is suited to her, but there's plenty of riders. Emily Watts, she was fantastic last weekend in the National Road Series virtual round 1. So maybe she's one to watch tonight to go on the aggressive for Subaru Giant. But we'd also like it if you have a loved one, family member in the race or the ride tonight, chuck a message in the Facebook chat or on YouTube, and we'll try and give them a shout out along the way. It's going to be fantastic, Matt. We really enjoyed the National Road Series racing, which is happening each fortnight on a Saturday. But this is a bit different too, because as you said, it's all-inclusive. We've got A grade through to D grade in both men's and women's. We even saw Stephanie Corset on the start list, a junior 19 athlete from northern Queensland, should I say. We won't talk about her mum because it's all about her now, but she is coached by her mum, I believe, Ruth Corset as well. And it was great to see her in real-life racing earlier in the year in Ballarat.
Another athlete I'm looking forward to watching is Annabelle Luxford, who's one of Australia's best triathletes, and let's see how she measures up. I've had the chance to ride with her a few times on a Sunday in a group that's organised by Greg Henderson, so I'm looking forward to seeing how she goes. In terms of what's in store for them today, the course that they're racing, it's on the Crit City World. It's downtown Dolphin. It is 19 kilometres in total, 10 laps of the course, an altitude gain of 80 metres. So it's flat and fast. It's short. This will be a brutal affair, Pat.
Yes, certainly, and particularly because of the size of the groups in both the men's and women's races tonight, it's going to make sure that the pace is consistently high. We're going to have a fantastic series in the SRAM Send It Series over the 8 weeks, but we also got to remember that this is 19 kilometres. They're probably going to complete it in about 24 minutes. So it is going to be severely quick around this course. Only 80 metres of elevation gain for the complete race. So the elevation gain, not that much there. So it's going to be a pure power athlete that probably wins tonight. And I didn't see Matilda Reynolds on the list, but if she was, she would be my favourite.
I think I just got lactic acid in my legs at the prospect of this course being covered in less than 25 minutes for 19 kilometres. That is a daunting prospect, Pat. In terms of this course, it is, as you mentioned, 10 laps, so they can get a bit of a feel for what they can expect on the course and whether that little lump on the circuit will have much of an impact at all as they progress. But for a lot of the riders, this is a chance for them to try and test themselves and get a personal best. And one of the wonderful things about Zwift, as anybody who is racing knows, you can really assess your data. You can take a look. If you're somebody that's racing here for the first time, you can take a look at the numbers from the winner, what sort of power they produced, watts per kilo, and assess it against yourself. And one of the fascinating things that I find in being able to watch this racing and commentate on it is taking a look on Zwift Power and seeing the weights of various riders, how much power they can produce, and then whilst we're live, seeing where their heart rate is.
Yeah, the heart rate's a good one. The race has kicked off, so we've started the 10 laps. And power-ups are going to be crucial tonight, as they always are in Zwift, Matt. The aero power-up, which makes you more aerodynamic for the 15 seconds. That's my favourite, I've got to say. But there's new power-ups as well. Draft increases the draft effect for 50%. For 30 seconds. That's also a good one. The breakaway, which is the burrito, makes you undraftable for 10 seconds, meaning anyone trying to follow you when you attack does not get an assistance from being in the draft. The lightweight, that's a favourite for the climbers and will be used in the National Road Series in particular on the hillier races, and that reduces your weight by 9.5 kilograms. I could do with that, but for more than 15 seconds for me. And the invisibility, this is my new favourite, makes you invisible to the other riders for 10 seconds. So you can attack, and for 10 seconds, they don't see you. They don't know you've broken away. All of a sudden, you've got a gap, and that can be a real game changer. So we haven't got to see on the live streams so far this season the Ghost, but we look forward to seeing it pump up tonight. Emma Chilton, she leads the way at the moment in this first round of the SRAM Send It Series. 19 kilometres, 10 laps of this circuit. And, well, now the pace is already fierce.
And Emma Chilton, she's part of a really strong team. She rides with the Rock Salt team, and she's one of a few riders from that squad. She also has Justine Barrow and also Brie Wilson with her from that team. And they're all riders that I expect to see up towards the front. And it's no surprise to see them opening up the throttle early and trying to force the issue, apply a bit of pressure to everybody else.
Yes, well, like in real-life racing as well, though, mate, you've got to be measured in your effort equally the same as in real-life racing. You go out too hard, once you crack in Zwift, that's the difference. You don't actually recover. In real life, sometimes you can get an assisting breeze, so the wind can be favourable, or maybe it's a really strong headwind and you can get a good draft and relax a bit in the peloton. But certainly, as you can see already, very big gaps opening up just between each rider, and that makes it very difficult for you to get the draft. Rhiannon Norton right in the centre there as well for Team Aero, a new team to Zwift. And look, they're really making a name for themselves at the moment. 256 watts, 92 revs per minute at 168 beats per minute. And we've got the live cam on Rhiannon tonight.
That's a lot of horsepower that is being put out by her at the minute. As you mentioned before, the heart rate is getting up there, more than 4 watts per kilo from Rhiannon. And she's got herself right in the thick of the action, heading up towards the front. This is round 1 of the SRAM Send It Series, and you can see her just in the box in the bottom corner, the numbers that she is producing. This is a big effort early on. But as you mentioned before, Pat, this is a race that's going to take less than 25 minutes, so the start is absolutely crucial.
Oh, for sure, and particularly in any event where you've got large numbers accumulating on the start line or in the pen, as we call it in the world of Zwift. You really need to get out of the pen quickly so you're in that front formation, because if those gaps open up, you've really got to effectively do an individual time trial to get back to the group. Already we're on lap 2, and as you can see, that magic number we spoke about before we went live, Matt, 50 kilometres per hour is the average speed.
And I saw Nicole Frayne up towards the front, as she's a rider that is around 27, 28 years of age, but she's still young in terms of her experience in the sport. She's had some pretty good results, and importantly, in terms of this format, she's had some good results in individual time trials. She had a nasty fall, unfortunately, for her at both the Tour Down Under and also at the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race. But she's a rider that I'll be keeping a really close eye on throughout this series. And hopefully we'll see a fair bit of her also at the Australian National Road Series, which is being raced on Zwift. And round 2 is this Saturday, Pat.
Yes, it is. It seems that we're jam-packed with great racing. And don't forget, there's also the Chop that race on a Thursday night, which is a fantastic series that people can participate in, male or female, A, B, C, or D grade. But yes, it's going to be fantastic on the weekend. Daniela Rose, 52 kilometres an hour, 56 now at 190 watts. She's trucking along okay. The 82 revs per minute. You've got to watch that revs per minute counter, because if you get too low, you can get bogged down in the race. And by that, I mean you get heavy legs. When the surges of pace come towards the end, particularly the sprint finish, you're going to find it difficult to accelerate. We haven't seen too many power-ups used just yet, Matt, but it's certainly good to see also Bree Vine out there, Anna Booth, Bree Wilson, Chloe Moran. That's just to name a few. This field is jam-packed, and I think that with all the lockdown, it's just made them realise just how good of a training and great hit-out this can be to be using Zwift. I mean, I get my riders to use it all the time, so we're already aware of it, but it's interesting to see just how many are doing big Ks on Zwift now.
There's Bree Vine once again up towards the front, pumping out a little bit over 200 watts. I also noted the name coming up towards the front of Jenny Pettinen, who lives all of about 2 suburbs from my place. She's in Althington. She's a mum of, I think, 2 or 3. So she's probably juggling homeschooling at the moment throughout the coronavirus period. She's sitting in 3rd position, so she's right in the thick of the action. She won't mind me saying this. In life, Pat, she's a little more experienced. I think she's pushing around about 40 years of age, and she's at the front in the thick of the action. That is brilliant. Go, Jenny.
Well, actually, Jenny is a great rider to have a look at. Someone that came to the National Road Series in real-life racing just last year, and she's really done quite well in the National Road Series, albeit her lack of experience, as you said. But it's probably a good person to talk about in the screen of the fact that we're talking about the SRAM Send It Series and looking for personal best. She really does push the limits for herself to achieve personal bests all the time, and she's done well in the National Road Series by having that, by running by that rule. And it's been fantastic to watch her, and she's a really bright and happy and jovial person to be around. So big shout out to Jenny, and I hope she gets a big ride on tonight, maybe a top 5.
Well, I mentioned Annabelle Luxford, but we've also got Laura Luxford. She's shown herself up towards the front. Regularly, we're seeing her name start to pop up, and she's punching out around about 4.5 watts per kilo. So she's showing plenty of good form. She's in a good position. And Pat, from 178 starters, the front end of this race, round 1 of the SRAM Send It Series, has thinned out really, really quickly.
It's thinned out down to 33 riders. It's Katie Banerjee. She is the last rider in this group of 33. And then there's a significant group of probably about 30 at 21 seconds. And then another group of 10 at 30 seconds. So there's quite a few groups out there. Meredith Clark is in that group at 32 seconds. Down at 52 seconds, Mia Brown from the Wolfpack Tasmania team. Also Keely Gamble. So it's great to see some new riders in here as well. Brittany Dykes is down there at 1:05 in a group as well. So there's significant groups on the road. But that front group at the moment, which is also splitting again now as we see a big attack off the front from the Spaniard, Anna Dilana. She's got a nice little lead over the 32 other riders chasing.
Well, just heading back to one of the groups a little bit further back down the road, I saw Kath Mackay was there, and she's riding with the name in her brackets of her team of AHDR, the Aussie Hump Day Ride, and she's in the Masters category, and it's great to see that we've got those that are in the Masters group. They're out there racing against the elite of Australian cycling and really testing themselves. And that is what this series really is all about. Because everybody that gets onto the start line for all 8 rounds of the series, they go in with a chance to win that brilliant SRAM prize of the SRAM Force ETAP AXS disc group set and a pair of brand new Zip 303S wheels. It's a pretty good prize, Pat.
Well, I can vouch for it personally because I have that exact group set on my road bike, which you saw over the summer of cycling, Matt. The 12-speed mechanical, the 12-speed gearing. I actually love it quite a lot. Now I'm not as strong as what I was previously. It gives me the ability to go, and I've got a selection of gears down to the bottom cogs where I don't have to go straight for the big chainring like it's a race always to try and keep up with the group over the top of the climb. So with that large selection of gears at the rear, it certainly has been quite nice to ride. And also different sized chainrings at the front gives you really that good combination. So someone's going to be very lucky to pick that up. And the Zip 303s, well, one of the most coveted wheels around because it's so versatile, right between the 202s and the 404s. So they're the ones you want.
Well, Pat, they're almost already at the halfway mark. Well, they're not quite there yet, but they've covered 7.7 kilometres. heading back towards the finish line once again, and they've been racing for just 10 minutes. And good to see Canada represented out there as well and riding towards the front end of the race.
Yeah, certainly. These graphics are fantastic. To give you some insight, 290 watts at 165. Dora might be one to watch for the final. She looks like she's producing some really good pure power at a low cadence, and that's the type of rider that will be successful tonight. Remember, it's not just open to the Australians, but the Australians, I believe, are the ones that are open to winning the prizes. Annabelle Laxford, she's still up there as well, so it's a great push of pace at the moment. But like I said, Matt, 23 minutes, that's about what we're looking at here. 8.2 kilometres in 11 minutes. They are absolutely flying.
That is incredible. Brie Wilson is up towards the front. Laura Luxford is also towards the front of the race. It's impressive riding by her. Nicole Frayne sitting up towards third position, so she's showing herself at the head of affairs. But Dora Marquez from Canada is really applying a fair bit of pressure at the front of the race.
Yes, and it's making a split off the front. There's about 13 represented in that initial front group. Nicole Frayne there, you spoke about her before the start. You've been given some tips that she is moving quite well on the bike at the moment, and it's great to see because she had that brilliant opportunity in summer to race with the national team at both the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road, or Deakin Road race, should I say, for the women, and also in the Tour Down Under for the Santos Women's Tour Down Under. And they were great opportunities for her. She had a bit of bad luck, some crashes there, and that could set you back. But she's back at it, and she seems to be flying, which is great because she really stormed onto the scene in the National Road Series, particularly last year.
Another name that keeps popping up at the front is that of Lisa Jacobs, the former Australian cyclocross champion. Lisa only recently became a mum for the second time. I think she became a mum for the second time maybe 4 months ago or thereabouts. It might have been just prior to Christmas, so maybe 5 months ago, but it wasn't all that long. And she's up the front and she's punching out 4.3 watts per kilo. I imagine that she's probably been getting bubbed down to sleep, husband helping with the older child, and then straight into the garage, into the pain cave, and onto the bike.
Yeah, she's always been a great one to follow in her racing as well. She animates the racing, and you know what? She doesn't mind hurting herself. She's always been one to go out there and do it probably the hard way in some regards, but she is incredibly intelligent in the cycling as well. So she'll be smart on the tactics side as well. So great to see Lisa Jacobs out there. Looking at her now, so 199 beats per minute, excuse me, at 47 kilometres an hour. 197 beats per minute. Matt, my heart rate doesn't go that high, but 244 watts, 86 revs per minute, that's pretty standard. She has a rider that sits around that 85 to 95 revs per minute. And again, probably not one that this course suits tonight if it's a big bunch sprint, but certainly on the more difficult courses, she'll be one to watch.
Well, those numbers are incredible. And if you believe some of the basic science of your max heart rate is 220 minus your age, Lisa would sign up for that because she's certainly not 220 minus that age to work out that she's 22 years of age with a heart rate of 198. She's a little older than that. She's got a bit more experience. She's also juggling work as well. I assume that she's on maternity leave at the moment because she's a lawyer and she's quite a senior lawyer at that. So she has got an impressive CV on and off the bike.
Yes, certainly, and an impressive CV is this front group of riders because we're seeing riders like Chloe Moran, she's falling to the second group now. Chevron Aerosmith, she's back there as well. Justine Barrow, Peter Mullins, these are riders that we expect to see in the front group. Emma Chilton is our focus rider there at 201 watts. Very low cadence though, so Emma's going to have to be careful not to get bogged down too much. Maybe a little error with her sensor there. 50 revs per minute seems incredibly low at 44 kilometres an hour. She rides for the Rock Salt SRAM presented by Giant team in the women's racing peloton, and fantastic summer did they have, Matt, over both the Deakin Women's Road Race, the Jayco Herald Sun Tour, or the Leicester Blackburn Herald Sun Tour, and also fantastic showing at the Tour Down Under.
I've just had an update on Lisa Jacobs for you, Pat, courtesy of Brett Lindstrom, who's chimed in on the Zwift live coverage. And thanks for the update, Brett. And it's a different Lisa Jacobs. She's new to the sport. Same name, different Lisa Jacobs to the one that we were talking about. But I love the fact that we've got another Lisa Jacobs. She's up the front. She's impressive. Her name has caught my attention, and I'll be paying very close attention to her because what we've seen from it so far today has been outstanding. Brett, thanks for the update.
Yes, thanks for correcting us because both riders deserve a chapeau, but certainly great to see new riders on the scene as well. Race with Emily Watts getting up there as well, Matt. You were really impressed with her race on Saturday to finish sixth in the National Road Series first round. And again, that was a circuit that didn't really suit her, but she came out and got a great result.
And in fact, it's Lisa Jacob as opposed to Lisa Jacobs. I jumped to the conclusion with the name popping up really quickly on the screen and just jumped to that conclusion as it's a name that I've been accustomed to seeing at the front for so long. Nicole Frame is who we're on at the moment, and she's riding up towards the front. She's one of the riders certainly to watch in this race. Always up towards the front, riding really strongly, and she's been helped by one of the best in the sport, Pat, with Donna Ray-Zielinski. If you want experience to guide you through this sport, Donna is the person to look after you.
Yes, and a student at the Federation University, which is the major sponsor of the National Road Championships and here in Ballarat. So Nicole's been a big welcome to Ballarat. She comes over quite frequently, albeit not at the moment. No one's coming over at the moment, of course, but certainly in the past. And she was the focus of one of their big studies recently over the summer. So it's great to see Nicole Frame really in good condition. And as I said, particularly after a few setbacks in the summer after getting such a great opportunity to represent the national team on the biggest stage. But here she is, she's back at it and she's having a real crack tonight. And this group is becoming a very select group. I'm checking it out now, Matt. We're looking at in this front selection, we're down to 25 riders with Tess White from the South Australian Institute of Sport. She tails the group in last wheel at the moment. Just in front of her, Sam Dorita from the Aero team, AERO, new team to Zwift in the racing scene. And we look forward to seeing who they have show up in this evening's men's race as well, because they've got both the men's and women's team on Zwift. Rhiannon Norton, we looked at her earlier and we had live cam on her, and she's part of that team also. As we look at Bree Wilson now making a surge off the front, she has about a 1 to 2 second gap, Matt, and she's pushing some really big watts here, 270 watts, 200, 300 now, and almost 100 revs per minute. But we can see that heart rate really high. So Bree Wilson, she really needs to get some bang for buck out of this move.
She's absolutely flying, and it's still a fair way to go for this sort of intensity. 5.5 kilometres still remaining. Round one of the SRAM Send It Series. This is the first of every Tuesday through to the 30th of June. Bree Wilson, she's been reeled back in. But this, Pat, is exactly the sort of attitude that we saw from the entire Rock Salt Attacker team throughout this rain summer. We've seen Emma Chilton come towards the front. This is a team that we've seen really active throughout this train summer, last season in the National Road Series, and what's been happening in the real world, they've just transferred to the real world of Zwift.
Well, that's exactly right. And another team that we often see ride really well together on Zwift is the Sydney Uni Staminade team. They were really impressive last week, as we know. They took 1, 2, 3 in the National Road Series round one of the virtual series, but they always race really well together. And tonight I'm looking there, it looks like they had in that front group, I was having a look, but it seems they've dropped away now. But Anna Booth, she's still in there for Sydney Uni, and also in there Nicole Frame. So they've got 2 riders in there tonight, but they were really impressive, weren't they, in the first round?
Yeah, they were certainly impressive. And Dora Marquez from Canada is consistently up towards the front. She's not a rider that I've seen before, Pat, and she is attacking. She's making a move off the front with 4.5 kilometres to go, or is it just a little bit of a boost that's opened up a slight gap and she's been reeled back in?
Yes, well, you've got to keep these surges going, Matt, if you want to break the legs of the sprinters because you really need to snap their legs before this finish, because as I said, it's going to be the pure power that wins tonight's first round. And having that pure power doesn't always come down to being really efficient. It just comes down to being able to produce an incredibly high amount of watts, particularly for 1 or 2 seconds. And then we should also see soon some of those big power-ups being used. And we saw those earlier. So the aero power-up's going to be the one that most people are looking for in tonight's. We can see the truck or the van pulling up there. So that's the draft. That increases the draft effect by 50% for 30 seconds. But the aero power-up, which is the one I'm focusing on, is the one that makes you more aerodynamic for 15 seconds. So if you're producing, say, 7 or 8 or 10 watts per kilo, that's going to be 10 watts per kilo, plus you're getting that extra aerodynamic benefit. So you'll see last week in the men's series in particular, the slingshot move that actually won the first round of the National Road Series, and that was used to perfection.
That was brilliant by Graham Frisley. His first win in a National Road Series race. Meanwhile, in the women's race, Vicky Whitelaw, she won a National Road Series race for the first time since 2007. So it was experience in the women's race, and it was youthful enthusiasm in the men's race. Nicole Frayne, once again up towards the front. She's riding really strongly. Regardless of her final result, she can be really confident with where her form is currently at.
Oh, yes, certainly. And I think anyone can be in this front group. When you have a look at who's in the second group, when you see that there's Justine Barrow and Amber Pate and Emily Roper, as she is on here, but Emily Herfoss, also Peter Mullins back there, Chloe Moran. So to be in this front group, your form is obviously very good, and that's good signs, particularly going forward in both series at the moment. This is really the time on Zwift for the Aussies to really be in great form, and it's another outlet, another way to put your name out there, particularly to prospective teams, potentially even international teams. They're always looking for new Aussies. They know that we produce really good talent, and with just 2.5 kilometres to go of this 19-kilometre race, it looks like it's going to come down to someone from this group of 10 riders.
Well, it has to. It's an incredibly select group. Emma Chilton is consistently up towards the front. The pressure is really on. They're inside the last 2 laps, 2.5 kilometres remaining. You're going to be pretty close in terms of your time prediction. I think they're going to end with a time around about 24 and a half minutes, maybe 25 minutes. Either way, doesn't matter which way you slice it, this is quick.
Yes, and you can see that small gap there. This is what I'm talking about. When you lose just that 10 or 15 lengths, it's incredibly difficult to make it back up. There's no easing up on Zwift, because if you freewheel, you'll get dropped. So there's just constant pressure. It's almost typical of having track bikes on the road, Matt Keenan. So coming down to this final 1.7 kilometres, it's going to be those who choose to use their power-ups at the right time and effectively to get the job done. Bree Wilson sitting really close up there. As you've already spoken about, Nicole Frayne. There's Annabelle Luxford. She's right up there as well. Bree Vine in there. Bree Wilson. But Emma Chilton, she's looking really strong tonight. You spoke about Jenny Pettinan. She's up there too. Maybe one for Jenny tonight.
She's doing brilliantly, holding her position towards the front. Bree Wilson is also right in the thick of the frame. Dora Marquez, once again, the Canadian, has put herself in with a chance to win. Nicole Frayne it is who's sitting in second position, and she was the rider that was marked down early as one to watch, but Pat Marquez goes, and she goes early.
Well, very early, in fact. No power-up used at this point, but it's the Canadian. She's pushed on. 1 kilometre to go. They're right there with her and looking to take over. Now we can start to see them getting in, pushing the bigger power. So we see the avatars getting out of the saddle. Bree Wilson, she surges to the front as well. And De Jong there also. Well, it's going to be a close finish. We'll look for the replay here in a moment, but 700 metres to go. Now the power-ups are popped, Matt Keenan.
And De Jong, who was at the front momentarily, it's Marquez now who moves herself up towards the front. She's been the most dominant so far in terms of aggression. She's rounding up riders that have been dropped throughout this race. De Jong is now at 3 seconds behind. Dora Marquez has owned this race, Pat. Surely she's able to hold on from here. She's about to make the final corner.
Well, and now the surge comes, though. So it is Marquez in front the Canadian. De Jong coming from behind, and Rugley, also Frayne making a late surge, but this is going to be a big enough gap. Surely 100 metres to go now.
Marquez holding on, De Jong in a second position, but it's Dora who has explored the course and taken the win. That is brilliant. What a performance. Pat, if we gave her most aggressive, she would take the prize. She doesn't need it. She's won the stage.
Yes, and she'll be very happy with that too, because she pushed very hard all race, but her numbers were really good, and we spoke about that early. She seemed to be a rider that could produce a high amount of wattage, and that was what you want tonight, a pure power sprinter. And wow, that just whets the appetite for later on as we look to the results now, and it was Dora Marquez, the Canadian. She took it out from the Dutch Antoinette de Jong. Then it was Jen Arnold from TBR, Brie Vine right up there as well, Nicole Frayne, Emma Chilton, Ayla Rugley, Jenny Pedman. Well done, Jenny. Courtney Sherwell and Marie-Louise Fitzgerald. All around that 4.5 to 5 watts per kilo, and all within 6 seconds of the winner. That was a great race to kick off the SRAM Send It Series, Matt.
Oh, you predicted the race would take maybe 25 minutes, a fraction under. It took 25 minutes and 8 seconds. How could you be so far out, Pat?
Well, I'm obviously a bit rusty at the start of the season, but no, we always predicted it would be a fast race. And when we look at that list, they're not sprinters that are in that top 10. You look at Jenny Patton, Emma Chilton, and Brie Vine. They're not really known for their sprinting. Nicole Frayne, nor known for that sprinting capability. So this is really exciting for them. They get on a tough course. They're going to be really hard to deal with.
Well, Dora, that was an impressive performance. That's the first opportunity I've had to see her race, and she really did show herself up towards the front. So she takes out round 1 of the SRAM Send It Series. And in terms of the big prize is actually participating every week to go in with a chance to win one of 2 SRAM Force E-Tap Access disc group sets with a pair of brand new Zip 303 S wheel sets. And whether you finish first or you finish last, Pat, as long as you ride all 8 races across the next 8 weeks of the SRAM Send It Series, you're an equal chance to win that prize.
Oh, fantastic prize it is too. And as I said, I've had the group set on my bike for about 8 months now, and it's a beautiful group set ergonomically, but also functionality-wise. And someone's going to be very lucky to pick up that group set and wheels, and they're going to wrap it around something special. Your favourite bike you've got, strip it down and put those parts on. It's going to reinvigorate that bike for sure. So Dora Marquez, congratulations, Antoinette de Jong and Jen Arnold rounding out the podium tonight, Matt. And not long, we'll see the men's race coming up.
Yeah, the men's race to come shortly. Stand by for that. That will kick off at 7:10. Just to wrap up, Dora Marquez taking out the win. Antoinette de Jong in second position. Gina Arnold was in third place. And then Brie Vine collecting fourth, followed by Nicole Frayne, ran out the top 5. The men, they'll be racing across the same circuit, 19 kilometres worth of racing. This took the women just 25 minutes and 8 seconds. It was incredibly fast. It was incredibly tough. Stick with us. At 7:10, the men will be starting.
Yes, and the men's 15 laps took them about 33 minutes last week, Matt. So it'll be fast as well. 15 laps of the course. We just finished 10 laps there with the women. And so the men, about 33, 34 minutes to complete their course. And do we think they'll see the same sort of tactics, Matt? Just an aggressive race, which then will bring out a smaller field towards the end. Maybe it'll be the weekend's winner, make it to the line and do 2 for 2. Oh, okay.
Johnny's just... Pat, we're back and ready to go with the men's race. Having a little bit of a problem with my audio here at the moment. Hopefully you can hear me. You got me loud and clear there, Pat?
Certainly do. Round 1 of the SRAM Send It Series. And we just had the women's race. It was a fantastic race and taken out by the Canadian there, Dora. As you said, she was exploring all right, exploring plenty of gap to the back to the field. Fantastic effort, but the men's field lining up and over 600 riders on the start line registered. Matt, it's going to be really difficult to just stay with the front group out of the starting pen.
Yeah, and one of the people that is the most excited is a guy that spends a lot of time on Zwift. And if you want to listen to a podcast to work out how to train and make the most of your time on Zwift, it's worth following Greg Henderson, Coach Hendy, and some of the podcasts that he does through Zwift. He's got a team. It's called Old and New. He's got a few young Kiwis on the team. One guy that I'm looking forward to seeing in action is Jack Carswell. His dad, Tim, was a pretty good bike rider and part of the coaching fraternity at the Kiwi national team. And joining Greg in his ride on a Sunday a few times, I've had the pleasure of riding kind of with Jack. Well, he waits for us at the top of the hills. He'll be one of the youngest guys in this race. But they've also managed to recruit none other than Freddie Ovett, who rides for the Israel Startup Nation team. This is a quality team.
Yes, certainly. And look, Greg's got a phenomenal history in cycling and a lot of experience, and it's great to see him passing that on to the younger generation as well as the older, it seems. So new and old, I like it. I like the name a lot.
Yeah, and Hendy would have raced with Jack's dad. So it'll be really interesting because Greg's going to be having a ride according to the start list. Let's wait and see. I can imagine that this is the sort of team that will do all they can to make it super tough right from the very start. But to shake some of the quality of the riders on this start list for the first round of the men's race in the SRAM Send It Series, they're going to have to be world-class because, according to the start list, Sam Welsford is there. And in 2019, in the space of just 30 minutes, he won 2 world titles at the track. He won the scratch race and he won the team's pursuit. It was team's pursuit first. Then he front up for the scratch race and he won that as well. He'll take some beating.
Yes, well, it'll be a perfect course for him tonight, Matt, and maybe you can run us through that.
Well, the course today, it is a course of some 19 kilometres worth of racing, 10 laps. It's in Crit City, downtown Dolphin course. It's only got an altitude gain of 80 metres, so not much at all. And as we saw in the women's race, where it took just 25 minutes to cover the 19 kilometres, it is incredibly far. In addition to the course itself, one of the key elements that you spoke about throughout the race, Pat, strategically is being able to use the power-ups at the right time and knowing what one to use and when.
Yes, well, Graham Frisley used the Aero power-up to perfection in the National Road Series Round 1 on Saturday. He came over the top of Nick White, who also used the Aero power-up, but just not quite as well. It makes you more aerodynamic for 15 seconds. The draft increases the draft effect by 50% for 30 seconds. The burrito, they taste good, but also they help you. It makes you undraftable for 10 seconds. And that's good because if you're making a breakaway, that means the rider's trying to follow you. They don't get the draft, so they've got to work just as hard as you. The lightweight, well, we normally see that used by the climbers and particularly in the tougher, hillier courses. It reduces your weight by 9.5 kilograms for 15 seconds. And my favourite now, the invisibility. Makes you invisible to other riders for 10 seconds. So if you make a breakaway, they don't see you until 10 seconds later, and that could be too late to catch you back.
It's the Harry Potter option, isn't it? And Phil Liggett used to say in his commentary of Robbie McEwen, he had the cloak of invisibility. And he had that so often, Robbie, when he won 12 stages at the Tour de France. And perhaps most famously, the final one that he won into Canterbury. What I do know is Greg Henderson is motivated. And I've got evidence of it, Pat. He's just sent the text message to say that he's had that many coffees, he doesn't know how he's going to get to sleep afterwards. It's 9 o'clock in New Zealand. Greg, good luck. He's been retired for more than a year now, Pat. This is going to hurt Greg Henderson's legs big time.
Yes, well, just before I retired, Matt, I was doing quite a bit of racing about this time of night in Australia, and you get off the bike after doing something like the SRAM Send It Series or the National Road Series, and you're so amped, you get a lot of work done. The problem is getting to sleep. You don't get to sleep till about 1 a.m. Because you're so amped. But I'm looking forward to seeing a car. Graham Frisley, I hear the word is he's hot. He's ready to go again. He's confident off the win on Saturday. He wants to show everyone it wasn't a one-off. I like it. I like it a lot from the Subaru Giant team.
Oh, there's no way it was a fluke from Graham Frisley. And he's been in the shadow at his club of Sarah Gigante and Luke Plapp. He's ready to step out from the Brunswick Cycling Club. He really is. But I'd love to see the garage around the White family in Ballarat with Liam White and Nick White. They were both inside the top 5 in the first round of the National Road Series, and they will be ready to race and motivating each other.
Well, more importantly, they'll be ready to send it. And who are you sending it for? That's what we want to know. So in the Send It series, tell us in the Facebook chat, who are you sending it for if you're part of tonight's race? And if you know someone in the race, let's know who that is and who you're following. It's going to be a great race, Matt. It's going to be a fast race. 25 minutes and 8 seconds it took the women just moments ago. Who's your favourite for tonight?
Sam Welsford. If Sam Welsford is right and motivated, he's just got that much horsepower. And if it doesn't work out, well, he can just join us next week and commentate. Because I'm not sure whether you heard Sam's coverage of one of the events last week. He wasn't racing. He was commentating, and he did a fantastic job. We're just inside a minute and a half to go before they get underway. As Pat mentioned before, it is the SRAM Send It series. So who are you sending it for? Both Pat and I, we've got the SRAM live feed up from Facebook on our computers off to the side here, and we're an eye on some of your messages to work out who you're following and who's getting the most support. And I have noticed, Pat, that we have had a bit of support from Wendy Superfan. She's already been on board, and she's made a message already to Dora from Canada, giving her the thumbs up, giving her a ride on.
Yes, we all love Wendy Superfan. G'day, Wendy. It's good to see you on board. Wendy travels around and watches all of the in real life events as well. And she's not only a super fan of one rider in particular, she just loves everyone. And she has been an incredible supporter of all the races in National Road Series, International and beyond. Just 20 seconds, now 10 seconds before the start, Matt. This is going to be a furious start. Look for 600 or 700 watts to be popping. And yes, I agree, Sam Welsford the favourite, but Frisley and Nick White ride hot on his tail.
Yeah, Graham Frisley, he'll be super motivated, as you mentioned, to let everybody know that win last weekend in the National Road Series was no fluke. He'll be back again this weekend to see how he goes. The race is underway. Incredible numbers, Pat. 583 riders on the start list, 19.5 kilometres, 10 laps. It's around downtown Dolphin. It is the Crit City World, and this will be brutally tough. And is that the name of Greg Henderson that I can see towards the front early on? I think it is. So too that of Sam Welsford.
Yes, well, this is really going to be a fast race. The faster, the better for someone like Welsford, who's got an incredible power, natural power, and we've seen that evident on the track. He's a phenomenal athlete to watch, and he's really what makes track cycling so enjoyable to watch. The amazing power that he produces, the turn of foot and just the sheer speed is what's so exhilarating about watching him race on the track. And as you said, he's quite the character and did a pretty good job at commentating just the other night. So maybe he will join us at some point, but for now he's looking to go for the dub. As he would say, he loves his fortnight as well. He would love to take out the win tonight.
He's a real gamer. Perfect. He's a brilliant cyclist, world-class cyclist, good gamer as well. He is perfect for Zwift. And he will be a rider that I think we'll see that name of Sam Welsford right at the sharp end when we get down to the last kilometre or so. He will be one that's tough to beat. Nick White sitting in sixth position early. Pat, with such an explosive start to this race, how long would you warm up for an event like this, and how critical is the warm-up?
Look, most of the riders will have done some form of pre-ride on Zwift. In fact, some of the riders earlier in the day, I saw them racing. Tim Cutler, who's in that top 15 there now, and we're already seeing big attacks. Mark O'Brien really surging off the front here, just 1.5 kilometres into the race. That's his best chance. But we've also seen these riders on Zwift during the day. I've been running it in the office as we've been working on the bikes at the bike shop. And at the moment, my father, Dennis, he's out there riding as well. So he's in the shop, at the front of the shop. And most of the people driving past will see him. And he's in there as well. So that's a big effort for him at 69 years of age as well to be continually getting involved in Zwift. He does 250 kilometres a week on Zwift, and he's incredibly fit for his age. So we'll look at the ghosts. Matt Keenan, these are the invisibility power-up. They are the invisibility power-up. Finally, we get to see them. That is fantastic to see. So for those wondering, that makes you invisible for 10 seconds to the other riders. Although not being used particularly to their strength right at the moment, still good to see them pop up.
I love seeing them. I'm waiting for the Ghostbusters to come out and collect them, but there's no point using them at the back. Surely that is a power-up that you need to use towards the back end of the race when you're up at the front and you're ready to try and break away and create that gap and catch everybody on the hop.
Yeah, well, I suppose there's two things about it. It certainly gives you an advantage if you're strong enough, Matt, but it's not a power-up such as the aero power-up, which gives you that aerodynamic ability for 15 seconds. So how do people achieve these aero power-ups and other power-ups? They get one every time they go through the start-finish banner each lap. So some of these riders might be discarding, is the term. Discarding, we can see the feather, which is the lightweight, reduces your weight. That's not going to be much help tonight. So they're discarding that in the hope that when they pass the finish line next time, after another lap is completed, they pick up that phenomenal power-up, that aero power-up. It's the power-up to get tonight. And we see at the moment Cam Roberts, he's highlighted. That's last year's winner of the SRAM Send It Series overall. Got to say, though, Cam, there's a lot of talent in this field tonight. Dalton Stretton, good to see him in there as well. He's been picked up recently by the Aero Racing team. So it's great to see the under-19 rider from Tasmania really giving it a dig towards the front.
You got to commentate on the series last year. Do you feel like the start list is stronger than what it was 12 months ago?
Well, certainly there's no doubt that the riders that we're seeing on Zwift at the moment, it's just phenomenal, the talent pool. And certainly the biggest thing that I've always liked about Zwift is the community aspect. And that hasn't changed. That's still the same. But we just now have so many of the racing community also involved. And particularly rides. You mentioned the Aussie Hump Day ride, which happens on a Wednesday night. And in particular, I really enjoyed taking that ride because you would ride with riders in D grade, C grade, B grade, A grade, and have a chat along the way. And I really like that environment, that community side of it. But certainly when we look down these lists, these riders are really popping off our chart as far as, you've got Mark O'Brien in there, you've got Ben Hill, you've got Nick White you spoke about before, you certainly got Alex West, who's been known for his Zwift capabilities, Graham Frisley, who won last weekend. There's certainly, you can keep going down the list, Dylan McKenna, who was really impressive on the Anzac Day race as well. Jay Vine in there. He was really strong in the Jayco Herald Sun Tour early in the year. Liam White, top 10 on the weekend in the National Road Series. We keep going. It's just formidable, the lineup that we're now seeing. It looks like Lee Howard in there as well, Matt Keenan.
Lee Howard, the multiple world champion on the track, a guy who's been amongst the best in the world on the road, and he is riding right up near the very front. And as we see Lee Howard pop up on the screen, the name that keeps appearing regularly in around about 10th, 9th position is the guy that Greg Henderson warned me about as much as anything else. Jack Carswell is showing himself to be everything that Greg Henderson has spoken about. This young kid from New Zealand is a name to watch.
Yeah, certainly. Look, a guy like Greg Henderson isn't going to throw a name around as a free card. Compliment coming from him is one that is well earned. Kieran Lewis up there as well. He's now having a big push as well at the front. There's just so many strong riders, and particularly on a course like this, they're going to have to be aggressive, because coming down to the sprint finish with guys in there like Nick White, Graham Frisley, it's not going to be an easy victory tonight, but maybe something from the race on Saturday. Liam White, when he hit out Matt Keenan, it wasn't a bad move. It was just a little bit premature. If he had held out another 200 metres, he potentially would have got that jump on the field. So be interesting to see whether riders have learned anything from Saturday's race. But certainly with 580 riders in the field, I think there will have been some riders caught out.
Yeah, it was on this course, as we're on board now with Michael Wright, and he's riding at 300 watts, 188 beats per minute. He's got to be desperately close towards the red zone. This is a brutal pace. Good to see that Brett Lindstrom has joined the conversation once again, and he's sending it for Nick Bensley. And we've seen Nick Bensley towards the front a couple of times. He's riding okay.
Oh, yes, and this is the perfect platform for someone like Nick. Great time trial capabilities as well. So that's the type of rider that you're looking for in this virtual racing world. Someone that can hold that really high-end tempo close to threshold for a long period of time. And Dylan McKenna, we see him still in there as well. He's going to be a strong one for the sprint finish, Dylan McKenna.
Pat, they've covered 9 kilometres just about, and they've been racing for less than 9 minutes. This is phenomenal.
Yes, they look like they're going to crack the 20-minute mark for 19 kilometres. We spoke before the start of the streaming tonight, Matt Keenan, and you said, how fast do you think they'll go? And I said, the men will average in the 50s. I think you thought I was taking you for a bit of a ride. I wasn't, and they certainly are still absolutely flying around this course. It's a strong front group still. I'm just having a look at the time gaps at the moment. We've still got around about 90 riders in this front group, albeit a little bit dispatched along the way. The main core group, which sits at about 7 seconds, is about 40 strong.
It is incredibly fast. And for this size of group to still be in here and the sort of numbers that we're seeing pop up on the screen with the power that they're producing, this is incredibly impressive. They're just about through the halfway mark, and they've been racing for less than 10 minutes. This is outrageously quick. My legs are hurting just watching this, Pat.
Well, I tell you what, you don't want to try it on. It's incredibly tough out there. Alex Lack, he's been strong all night, hasn't he, for GPM Stools racing team. Look forward to seeing him pop up on Saturday. We didn't see much of him in the first round of the National Road Series, but a different course on the weekend, and I think that will suit him.
You can see a few of those aero power-ups within this group. If you're in the race at this point and you're at that threshold and you're just on the verge potentially of popping, now might be one of those times where you use the aero or the drafting or something along those lines, one of the power-ups, Pat, just to survive, to stay in the group, in the hope that you can stay there and find your rhythm again.
Well, that's true, but we also saw the burrito being popped as well. Again, I don't think the riders right at the moment are using these power-ups to their greatest potential. The burrito is really a great option for mine if you are a rider that can't sprint on this flat course. It, along with the invisibility, they would be the two, because with the burrito, when you break away, you are undraftable for 10 seconds, giving you a greater ability to get a gap and create that breakaway. And the invisibilities we spoke about, we saw those little ghosts popping up, little Caspers that makes you invisible to the other riders for 10 seconds. So on the stream, we can see those riders, but no one else can see them in the race. So right at the moment, when they pop that power up, they're not visible to the in-game players. So I know that it's been quite an attractive power up in the more experienced riders on Zwift, races on Zwift. So it'd be interesting to see if someone can slip it in just around that 2 kilometres to go, Matt Keenan, as we're on board with Greg Henderson, or Coach Hendy as he's known.
Coach Hendy pumping out some big numbers. Almost 400 watts, still in that main group. This is impressive. For a guy who's been retired for a while, he is riding up towards the front. And if he's your coach, it's pretty hard to turn around to Greg Henderson and say, oh, I don't really want to do that, because he's done it. And he's the kind of coach that I imagine isn't going to ask you as an athlete to do something that he hasn't done or hasn't been prepared to do in the past himself.
Yes, and that probably makes him why he's such a good coach, because he is accountable, and you know that if he's put to the point, he would be able to accomplish what he is asking of his athletes. And it's something I've always tried to do with my athletes, is make comparisons to situations in which you've been in personally and had to overcome, to help them understand and realize that, you know, there's sacrifices along the way, but there's also there is daylight out the other side, particularly in the harder times after a crash, an injury, or particularly sometimes just disappointment in a poor result out of an event that you've really tried hard to be ready for. It's Carter off the front now, surging off the front for Rafa Cycling Club, and this is a big move. It's probably early, but it's going to split the group.
And Mark O'Brien, as always, is up towards the front. Carter, he's managed to open up a little bit of a gap, Nathan Carter, but look at those numbers, almost 500 watts, pumping out some big numbers. And the cadence that you spoke about, Pat, that's worth noting. He's pretty low in terms of cadence, a little over 70 RPM. That is somebody that's pushing a really big gear, and you run the risk going into the red zone and getting bogged down with such a low cadence.
Yeah, for sure. But if it just depends on what type of rider you are. We look at the power he's producing in the 600 watts. It's over 8 watts per kilo. That was a really strong surge there. And this is a big, big move. This is significant in terms of the race. With just over 6 kilometres to go, this is really going to be one that tests the legs of the riders. And I'm going to love to hear the debrief from the riders, because they always talk about how tough these races are. Nick White, he's on the live cam there. You could they have 1.5 metre distance as per law last week. 383 watts. Yeah, that's pretty standard for Nick. He's in good form. I can tell you he's in good form, and he has been really enjoying the Zwift racing.
And he looks okay. He looks relatively comfortable, and he's concerned about his appearance. He's got the cap on, and as Mitch Docker would say, he's got the luft. He's just got a little bit of fluff towards the front, so he's got the right appearance.
Oh, Nick's all about appearance, my friend. He's very much about appearance, but got to give him. He really does come out and produce the goods, and whilst you're doing that, well, you can do as you please. Right up there, Mark O'Brien still close in there as well. Coles is there for Saris as well. Stewart up there, and Aiken also. So some pretty good riders up there. Oh, look at Velo Kicks. That's interesting to see. Nick Squilari, he's still in there. Graham Frisley pops up. Matt Keenan, we were super impressed with him on the weekend. We gave him a bit of a rev up, and he got the job done. Made us look really good.
Yeah, quite is good. And Freddie Ovett, you can see his numbers now popping up onto the screen. He's the easiest guy to spot in this entire event. SRAM Send It. This is the SRAM Send It Series, round 1 of 8. Every Tuesday we'll be here covering the events. Freddie Ovett is wearing the colours of the Israel Startup Nation. And in terms of some of the online racing that he's participated in so far, he's done really well. Everybody knows, Pat, that Freddie Ovett has a big engine. It's just a question of getting it out on the road. At the moment, he needs to just get it out through the bike, and he's doing so. He's patiently riding towards the front without sticking his nose all the way onto the front.
Yeah, look, he's an incredibly talented athlete, and he just needs to be able to get into some good conditions, stay healthy, and stay fit. So this could be a good opportunity for him to get some good hit-outs, particularly in an environment that he feels confident and capable in, and really get some good form before the season starts opening back up. Liam White for Oliver's Real Foods also got the live cam on. He will carry a bit more of a grimace than his brother. Not so concerned about the looks, Liam. He just wants to get the job done. 80 reps per minute. That's pretty standard for Liam. A bit lower cadence than his brother. Still at 350 watts. That shows you what you've got to be holding to be in this group tonight. And with just 5 kilometres to go, now you want to start to compose yourself, work out where you want to be situated in the pack, albeit a smaller pack now, Matt Keenan.
And some gaps really starting to appear at the back. This is like a real elimination race down to the last 5 kilometres. Liam White and Nick White, they're together on Zwift. They're together in the garage. They're together at the front of the race, and they're both in with a chance to win. Nathan Carter's also showing himself up towards the front regularly. So too Mark O'Brien. Graham Frisley now. And the shirt is off this time for Graham Frisley. He doesn't want to overheat. And Graham Frisley, from that footage, he looks relatively composed.
I tell you what, he's in some really good form at the moment. And what we learned on the weekend was his endurance capacities really improved as well, particularly on the road. So this is a high heart rate experience. Leading at the back of the pack. So 45 riders are still in this group. Sam Jenner just losing contact for the Bridge Lane team. Nick Squalari towards the back. Mike Cumming also towards the back. Jesse Featonby back there also with Tom Benton and also Ollie Jones. Nick White there just in the middle of the pack. Who else have we got in here? Jay Vine is there as well. Kieran Lewis, who's been strong in the past. Matthew Gasner's in there. We've also got Justin McKinnon, Graham Frisley, who we just saw, Dylan Hopkins, who's really quick, Matt Keenan. We've got Brendan Davids there from Oliver's Real Foods, Alexander Evans in there, Alex West, and also Greg Henderson still there.
Phenomenal that Greg Henderson is still there. He'd love to actually go around that corner in the real world and get everybody under braking. And good to see that Luke Lucas is on board with your view about Jay Vine being able to ride Zwift. He knows what to do on this platform. Inside the last 4 kilometres, and at this pace, it's going to be less than 4 minutes. They are motoring.
Well, they're flying along 3 kilometres or 3.5 kilometres to go. They're not going to crack the 20 minutes that it looked like they were after 9 kilometres, Matt Keenan, but it's still going to be a fast pace. Just coming around this time, it'll be 1 lap to go in around about, they're 1.5 laps to go, should I say. They're flying along, and I've been very impressed with Carter. This has been a big effort from Carter. I haven't heard a lot of him, so I'm going to have to do some more research, Matt Keenan.
He might be doing the research for us now live on Zwift in round 1 of the SRAM Send It Series, because he's providing us with an education as to just how strong he is. He and Mark O'Brien have been the 2 most regular names that we've seen up towards the front. So regardless of the final outcome, we know what we're in for the rest of the season, the rest of the series from Nathan Carter. It's strong, aggressive racing.
Yes, Ben Hill. He's one to watch too. We always talking about Ben Hill in our real-life racing as commentators, Matt Cannon, because he's an animator. Can he animate it tonight? We'll wait and see. Or will he do his job for his teammate, both in real-life racing and on Zwift, and Nick White? Both the 2 riders ride for Bridge Lane in real life and Team Aero in Zwift. So be interesting to see how that plays out. Or can we see a Graham Frisley 1-2 from Saturday and then go back-to-back here in this round 1 of the SRAM Send It Series? It's going to come down to see this big sprint, 2.5 kilometres to go. They've been racing for 20 minutes. Average watts has been around that 5.4 watts per kilo. That is crazy.
And Graham Frisley is moving himself into contention. He's up in a 4th position. He's just behind Dylan McKenna. They're rounding that corner for the second last time. They're about to metaphorically get the bell as we're back on board with the very impressive Nathan Carter. He has been one of the highlights from this race, with still the big decision yet to come. Pat, this is going to be tough. It's going to be tough to pick the winner, and it's going to be even harder to actually get the win.
Well, you can see the big split between the two groups too, so it's going to be near on impossible for the second group to catch up. We're back on board with Nathan Carter too, because he has been phenomenal in this race already. 400 watts he's producing, looks the goods. He's right up towards the front. Great to see Dalton Stratton right in there as well, the under-19 rider from Tasmania. Nick White right up there. Lester in there as well. Alex Holden for the Subaru Giant Racing team. He'll be in there to help his teammate, Graham Frisley, who's right up there as well. And Greg Henderson, well, he's still in there. Can he touch up the young fellas tonight, Matt Keenan, and do it for the old guys?
If he does, you'll never hear the end of it. But we're on board with Greg Henderson because Coach Hendy is in with a big chance. Alex Holden is also in the thick of the action. Graham Frisley has got his hat in the ring once again. Mark O'Brien is not too far away. Freddie Ovett is setting in 10th position, but there's a bit of a gap starting to open up for Freddie. The pressure is on at the front, and it is Carter, Nathan Carter once again, who has opened up the throttle and he's opened up the gap.
Yes, he's opened up the gap. Can he maintain it? 750 metres to go. 5 seconds he's got. Ollie Jones is responding. Then it's Lack, Kieran Lewis, Alex West. They're all there. Holden is trying to come across as well, with Ben Hill and Nick White getting loaded up as well. Muller is there also. This is really, they're flying. 412 watts. Nathan Carter, I don't think that's going to be enough. Ollie Jones takes over the lead now, with Lack trying to catch up to the wheel of Jones.
Jones it is, who's moved himself up into the front. Carter is responding. He's trying to stick with Jones. They're down to the last 250 metres, but it is Ollie Jones who has got himself on target for win number 1 in the SRAM Send It Series. It will be Jones going out glorious as he manages to snatch the win. That was an impressive finale to the race. Jones getting the timing just right to go over the top to get the win. Carter so aggressive, but that was a brutal 19 kilometres. Jay Vine it was, in fact, that just managed to get there. He just got over him. A little bit of picture break up at my end.
Yeah, 0.02 of a second. And he was flying.
Frisley. And then Graham Frisley into third, Pat. That was impressive. So it was Jay Vine in the end ahead of Jones. It looked like Jones was there, went with the call a little bit too soon. It was then Jones in second behind Jay Vine, Graham Frisley in third, Ryan Larson from the United States in fourth, and one of your favourites, Ben Hill, in fifth. A favourite because he's Mr. Entertainment. Gary Mueller in sixth position. Nathan Carter, so impressive. That is a quality seventh. Alex West in eighth. It was then Chris Aiken in ninth. And hats off to the, in inverted commas, retired Coach Hendy. Greg Henderson in 10th.
Well, Jay Vine, he's got a lot of experience on Zwift, as does Ollie Jones. Ollie Jones looked like he got it right. Graham Frisley coming home with a wet sail, but it was Jay Vine in a photo finish, takes the win. And, well, that's a great effort. He'll be impressed with that. He hopefully can carry that on to the National Road Series Round 2 on Saturday. Well, that was fast, Matt. We knew it was going to be quick, but it was extremely quick, and only 24 made it to the finish in that front group, which suggests that even on the flat circuits, it's still a tough and well-informed rider that's going to make play for the victory.
Well, one of the things that everybody knows that rides on this platform is you don't get as much of a rest as you would do if you're riding a criterium out on the road, because you don't get that opportunity to clutch around a corner. And even though it's only a split-second break, there is no break at all in this format. So as a pure physical effort, this is the time trialing of training and of racing online. There is no let up at all. You win here, you've got good form.
Plain and simple. Plain and simple. There's no argument about that, because 5.5 or 5.4 watts per kilo. We actually saw Jay Vine. He averaged 5.8 watts per kilo. Now, just have a little bit of mathematics at home, ladies and gentlemen, that are watching the stream, and times your body weight by 5.8, and then see what the raw number you get out. He has just sat at that power for about 22 minutes. That's phenomenal. In these shorter events, though, Matt Keenan, that is possible. If they go out and do that in, say, a 40-minute race, they're going to find it's going to be a lot harder to maintain that in that next 20-minute block. But shows you Greg Henderson, he's still got some good stuff under the tank.
Well, Since the coronavirus has struck, I've not missed a day on Zwift since the 19th of March when I returned from France. And those sorts of numbers that Jay Vine was producing, that's what I do for sprint efforts for 30 seconds.
Yep. And I think that's probably where it's going to stay. I don't think we want you doing that for 20 minutes, Matt Keenan.
They were huge numbers. And I was really impressed with Nathan Carter today. And likewise with Greg Henderson. But this is not just about the front of the race, Pat. We had 583 riders take to the start line, and everybody that enters and participates in all 8 of this series, we've got 8 rounds. This is week 1. Every Tuesday from now to the 30th of June, you go in with a chance to win one of 2 SRAM Force E-Tap Access disc group sets and a pair of brand new Zip 303S wheels as one winner amongst the women, one winner amongst the men. And whether you're first or last, as long as you race, as long as you participate, you're a chance.
And it's a superb prize. And it was fantastic prizes last year too. So we're grateful to have the support of SRAM. And you are right. Next week, we'll ask you again who you're sending it for. I think my old man might have been sending it for all of the great customers that we've had in recently, Matt Keenan. And everyone's on bikes at the moment. It's great to see. You can't buy a smart trainer. You can't get one. They're as easy to find as a golden nugget. So we really, really big shout out to everyone that's on Zwift. Almost 600 riders registered tonight in the men's, over 100 in the women's. What a fantastic turnout for week 1. It's going to be great to have the show back on the road for Saturday for the NRS round 2. But rounding out the results again, Matt Keenan, after stage 1 of the SRAM Send It Series.
Jay Vine takes the win. Second place goes to Ollie Jones. It was Graham Frisley in 3rd position. He's been consistent on Zwift this season. Ryan Larson was in 4th place, followed then by Ben Hill. Gary Mueller was in 6th position. Nathan Carter, so impressive, in 7th place. It was Alex West that was then in 8th place. Chris Aiken was 9th, and Greg Henderson wrapped it up with a 10th place finish. If you missed the women's race, that was taken out by Dora Marquez. Antoinette de Jong was in 2nd place, and Jen Arnold was in 3rd position, followed then by Bree Vine in 4th place. That was a good day for the Vines. Nicole Frayne was 5th. Emma Chilton was 6th. Alia Rudgley was in 7th position. Jenny Pettinen was in 8th. Courtney Sherwell was 9th. And Marie-Louise Fitzgerald was in 10th place. So, Pat, that brings us to a close for round 1 of the SRAM Send It series. There was a lot to like about round 1. I'm looking forward to round 2.
As am I, Matt Keenan. It's fantastic to have everyone support it tonight on Facebook and across YouTube and Zwift Live. It's going to be great to be back on Saturday for the National Road Series.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Next Tuesday, we'll be back with the SRAM Send It series. As Pat said, you can join us on Saturday as well for round 2 of the National Road Series. Until then, bye for now.